G'day, Bush Camping Tools here. Well, I thought I'd do a really quick review of this latest acquisition here. I'll just take this out of here. This is just a little keeper knot on there. And this is new from Pohl Force. I'm sure lots of you are already aware of the brand name from the knife designer Dietmar Pohl. And this is hot off the press. This is the Pohl Force Compact One, and as you can see, it's a stonewash blade, but the same one is available over the black titanium nitride. It's got sort of like a very beefy miniature buoy type blade, if you like, in this small handle. It's 6mm D2, so it's really thick, really hefty. The question is with all these knives you really have to try them on. I bought this from a physical shop. You know, I know that it's going to be comfortable in my hand. I tried it in different positions. It comes with a Kydex scabbard with a, you know, quick release here on the back. And you can fit your belt on there like that, and it can be locked like that, so you can't actually, you know, disengage that accidentally. That's the whole thing there. So let's have a look at it in more detail. So this is hardwood, it's probably maple, and putting a lot of force into this, it's comfortable to hold, at least in my hands. Okay, I've got, you know, like size 8.5 hands. I think if you've got a bigger hand, a 9 and above, this knife is probably going to be too small, unless you're just buying it as a collector's piece. You know, got it to use. You know, so that's pretty good. That's pretty hard. That's fairly, you know, hard wood. Okay, there's my hand. It's a bit red for sure because it's a small handle. You can't expect much from that, but you know, it's a hefty blade. You can grip it, you know, pretty well in this position like that. And because the blade is short, it's 88mm. It's not going to, you know, drag it back this much too much here. So if you had a gloved hand on it, would be better, but the actual profile of the handle is quite smooth here, this G10mm scale, so that's what I liked about it. And also the tang itself is rounded, so there's no real super hot spots there. You know, it's slightly rounded here too in the near the ricasso, or the guard rather. You know, so yeah, you can. And this is hardwood. Okay, so you've got to put a lot of force into it. It's dead hardwood, not green stuff. So I think that's a pretty good test. If it was green, it would be, you know, much easier to cut. All right, let's see if this has got any fat wood in it. Oh yeah, look at that. That is pure fat wood. At least to there. That's a strong little knife. Okay, so I want to summarize about the Pohl Force Compact One stonewash. Like all these small knives, you know, they have their limitations, of course, and the limitation is always going to be in the handle and how much hard work can you do with it without destroying your hand, because the handle's just not a full-size handle. You've basically here got a, you know, a small sturdy blade with a small handle. Handle doesn't have too many hot spots. Well, I don't think it has any hot spots on it really. You know, but if you're going to put a lot of force into this blade, it's going to act like a lever, and that's going to go against your hand. So you've got to be able to hold this thing, you know, comfortably in the hand and try it out. And as I said, I did try this out in the store, obviously not batoning with it or, you know, using a baton on it like I did with this huge chunk of wood a minute ago to bust up some fat wood. But, you know, to see how it would feel in the reverse grip, all those sorts of things, you know, and it's a good grippy, you know, handle without being too uncomfortable. I think these sorts of knives are aimed at the minimalist almost. You know, I would not take this on anything more than like a day hike. You know, I wouldn't take it on any extended camping trips. You know, you're better off with a bigger full-size handle on a knife, but certainly for day hikes, this is a really sturdy blade. Well, that's perfectly okay. They didn't mash the, you know, it's a thick blade, okay, and it's a high saber grind on this blade. It's not a full flat, it's a sort of a saber grind, and I would expect it to, you know, make a big mess of the onion, but that's okay because it's a small blade. It's not very high like this, you know, not much depth to it. You know, there are always going to be compromises. I've said many times, you know, 6mm is way too thick for preparing food. But again, it's like all these things, you can if this is the only thing you've got on you. But a thinner blade certainly is better for preparing food around the campsite. It's just a little trick to remove the outside from the garlic. You just squash it with the blade of the knife side on. So where does this thing come into itself, kind of thing, you know, for such a small knife? Why even bother with this? Well, I guess, you know, the blade is like the size of a fairly decent sized fold up, but it's obviously it's going to be heaps sturdier, so you can put a lot of force into this. And as you saw earlier on, you know, I could strike it with a large chunk of wood as a baton and bust into hard, you know, relatively hard fat wood with it. We're just not going to do that with a folder. You could, but of course you could damage the folder. This you're not going to. In the coming videos, I'm going to show you cooking up some treats out bush, where I'm not just pouring hot water onto this freeze-dried stuff. I know, you know, you're saying, well, the freeze-dried stuff, it's really light. Well, it's actually light, yeah, sure, but it's expensive, you know, and you can cook a better meal. And I think if you're going to take the time to enjoy the outdoors, why not, you know, why rush the evening meal or whatever? Why not have a really good meal as well, whether one is in a hurry or not? You know, to eat those freeze-dried meals, you still have to boil water, you still have to make a fire, whether that's on a stove or a natural fire. You know, it's a great skill to be able to cook, you know, regardless of, you know, your sex and stuff. It's a great skill to be able to cook. And it's a lifelong skill.